Hey guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to.
I don't deliver babies anymore. I practice something called gynecology and regenerative medicine or functional medicine. So today my comments are going to be focused on how I think the medical system has failed us in what we've been doing with patients and how we've been treating them for the past 50, 60, 70 years, and how I think we need to open our mind and why I think it's so important that everybody attend events like this and advocate for cannabis legalization in the state and decriminalization, because it is very honestly and simply put better medicine. And with that, I'd like to know what all of you or any of you would think if I told you that medical students in school right now were not taught about the cardiovascular system, if they received no training in the system of how our blood is oxygenated and pumped and circulated and blood pressure, if they got no training in that at all. Would that be concerning? Because I think it would be very concerning. And the good news is that they all do learn about the cardiovascular system. It's foundational, it's critically important. We all need to understand how it works. But they don't teach us still, even more than 30 years after its discovery, anything about the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is, quite simply, in one of the premier experts in cannabis medicine in the country's opinion, the most important physiologic system in regulating and maintaining our health and wellness. And the endocannabinoid system, as this slide indicates, is critically important in dozens of processes and functions that our body has to do every single day. It is present in every single tissue and organ system in our body, and it plays an incredibly important regulatory role in how our bodies function. These are just some of the processes that we're aware of. Research is being conducted every single day in countries outside of the United States, and the more they research, the more they discover about what cannabis medicine can do in our bodies and how our own endocannabinoid system functions. So this slide just mentions some of the systems and the conditions and symptoms that cannabis medicine can help to treat very effectively for a lot of patients. And the picture on the left shows a person out of balance, because the endocannabinoid system's job in our body is to maintain balance. And in the sense of thinking of health as being a situation where our organs or tissues are in balance, then that translates into a disease state or a condition or a symptom being experienced as a state of imbalance. And for a variety of reasons, nowadays, our bodies can lose the ability to produce our own endocannabinoids, because it is well known that our bodies produce molecules and our cells contain receptors that match and fit with the phytocannabinoids from plants. And when we are unable to produce our own endocannabinoid molecules and cannot recover from an injury or a disease state, plant phytocannabinoids can be used to help restore balance in our systems much more safely and much more effectively than many of the prescription drugs that we write for patients every single day. The endocannabinoid system is well characterized. It is very new in terms of medical speak and science. We've known about it well for about 30 years or so, and it's being studied extensively. This slide is just a timeline of some of the discoveries that have been made. It's not all inclusive, but it is principally to show, as is this one, that we have moved well past the realm of theory and hypothesis and speculation when speaking about cannabis as medicine. We know that it functions medically within our bodies, and we know that it can help to restore human health. It's a lot more than CB1 and CB2 receptors. There are all kinds of receptors that it can respond to help with lots and lots of processes to help restore us to states of health. So in light of all this knowledge, how is it possible that people, politicians, physicians still deny the existence of an endocannabinoid system or deny that cannabis is medicine in our bodies? And it's interesting because some of these people are actually intelligent, rational, well-educated people, And I would like to understand a little bit better, what is it that causes people to reject things in the face of such compelling and overwhelming science? And so if you search the PubMed website, the National Library of Medicine's search engine for published peer-reviewed medical studies, there are over 20,000 research studies documenting and explaining how cannabis medicine can work in our bodies. The majority of them are favorable or explanatory. There are even 4 FDA-approved medications that are mimicking or isolating single components from cannabis. So for people to claim that marijuana isn't medicine seems ridiculous to me. And the speaker, Deb, a few minutes ago was talking about something that I wanted to touch on too. When we are introduced to belief systems at some point in our life, we adopt them or we reject them. But once we adopt them and we accept them and incorporate them into our belief systems, we cling desperately to them. And it is an evolutionary technique that we needed when we were foraging for food and avoiding saber-toothed tigers. Limbic brain, lizard brain they call it, clings to ideas even in the face of scientific evidence that proves it's false. And earlier this week, one of our own senators, John Cornyn, made comments stating that he feels like all the claims being made about marijuana functioning as medicine were analogous to the tobacco industry claiming back in the 70s and 80s that cigarettes had health benefits. And it is so distressing to see people at this level of power, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, still rejecting this science that is so evident to people who I think examine it critically and keep an open mind. So I start to think then, this behavior pattern and clinging to these false beliefs is called cognitive immunization or belief perseverance. And people will believe things even when they fail to happen, like cults who think the world is going to end at Y2K. Their beliefs actually get reinforced when they are shown to be inaccurate. But I started to wonder, what about with physicians and patients and politicians again? Are there other belief systems that perhaps we cling to and reasons why we continue to do the same things over and over again, despite the fact that we recognize that they have a lot of harm, that they fail to show benefit, and that there are better ways to treat conditions? And on the one hand, I thought, we have been being indoctrinated for over 80 years that cannabis is a dangerous substance, it's highly addictive, it's a gateway drug with no medicinal value, and we know that's false. But on the other hand, and this is very important because this is how all of your doctors are trained, physicians are trained that prescription drugs are the best, safest, and most effective way to treat conditions. And we live in a culture where medical students are taught from earliest days in medical school through residency, beyond graduation, that research is what drives us to do the things we do. But if all of the research is only looking at pharmaceutical products and prescription drugs, then everyone's problem looks like a nail, and the only tool I have is a hammer. And maybe those beliefs are false as well. And I know that they are, and I just want to share a little bit of thoughts about them. We live in this kind of ridiculous belief that FDA approval of a drug means that it works, that it's safe, and that we should use it and that you all should take them. And the fact of the matter is that when you look at the FDA's mission statement, it is an incredibly strong position. This entire federal agency's job is to protect the public health by ensuring the safety and efficacy of drugs. That's a big claim. Very strong. They do a few other things, but that's one of the first and foremost. And then a few pages further down on their website, a huge caveat where they say, actually, no drug is really safe. How could we ever know if it was really safe? Really, what safe means is that we think the benefits appear to outweigh the risks based on very short-term trials. It takes a drug forever to get FDA approval, but it only gets exposed to about 1,500 patients before that drug gets put out into the population of 350 million Americans, and that is inadequate to know how any of us are going to respond. So I think this might possibly be a false belief that doctors, who obviously feel they're much smarter than everybody else, cling to, and one reason why they continue to reject cannabis as medicine. Evidence-based medicine is what physicians are taught to practice. And that means that you look at research studies and what they found and what they tested to treat your blood pressure, my thyroid disorder, your autoimmune condition, all comes through randomized controlled trials that have looked at several hundred, several thousand patients and compared one drug against nothing. And if the study showed that it worked, then we're supposed to prescribe the drug to everybody and let the money rake into the pharmaceutical industries and hope that a lot of negative side effects don't start to show up, which very often they do after the drugs have been out on the market. Sometimes years, decades later. We saw that with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We obviously are experiencing that with the opioid addiction crisis. So many drugs get either black box labels put on them once they have been released, or rarely, very rarely, actually get recalled because they're shown to be so dangerous. But that's how every single doctor out of a conventional medical school is trained, that prescription drugs are the answer. Not behavior modification, not stress reduction, not exercise, healthful eating. In fact, when they've surveyed physicians recently, less than 25% of them felt qualified to speak to patients about proper nutrition to help guide them in their health or weight loss journeys. And I would wager that the 25% who felt confident probably didn't have adequate nutritional knowledge to speak to people educatedly. They also know nothing about supplementation, which is ridiculous in my opinion, because our cells run on nutrition. They need CoQ10, they need magnesium, they need vitamin D, B. They don't need Zoloft, Paxil, whatever is missing from my system that caused me to become sick. It was not a pharmaceutical deficiency. But this is how medicine is taught. And one of the problems with pharmaceutical products is that one tends to lead to another. Because say you came to see me for feeling overwhelmed or stressed or depressed, and the only thing I know to treat someone who seems like a depression might be part of that is an antidepressant medication. So we send you home with a prescription, ask you to come back in a couple of months and reevaluate if you're getting better. Lo and behold, in 2 months you come back. And you're not sure, maybe feeling a little bit better, maybe not. It's hard to say for sure, but I have gained 15 pounds, and I'm not really sure why. A known side effect of almost all the antidepressants is weight gain. And so now when you report to me the weight gain, I definitely don't want you to come off of your SSRI because it might still be working, but I think we should put you on some phentermine because I know we don't want you to gain weight and that'll cause more health problems. So it's gonna help give you a little more energy, it's gonna slow down this weight gain that you're experiencing, and then just give the little antidepressant some more time and maybe things are gonna get better. I didn't talk to you at all about your life, your stress, your prayer, belief, meditation, anything that you're doing to modulate your stress. It's just another drug. When you come back the third time to check in with me, now you have better energy, the weight gain has slowed, the depression is still maybe better a little bit, but now you're not sleeping very well because the Vyvanse or the phentermine is a stimulant and doesn't allow you to get into restful sleep at night. But thank God for that phentermine or Vyvanse, because without it, I certainly couldn't get through my day feeling this tired and sluggish all the time. And now you're on 3, maybe 4 prescriptions. The initial problem maybe is a little bit better, maybe not. You got 3 copays going out to the insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical companies are getting paid by them for 3 products. So if I'm a pharmaceutical company executive, this is a terrific system, and I want you to do it 20, 25, 30 times a day to everybody who comes into your office. But the more medications you put people on, the more likely are they to experience side effects, and the more potentially dangerous and serious are the side effects to be. Because in the grand scheme of things, a little weight gain may not be the worst thing in the world, but once we layer 4 of those things into your system, acute kidney failure, drops in your blood pressure, cognitive decline, dementia, heart failure, blood pressure episode crises. Those are serious adverse drug effects. And those happen over these numbers that are reported, because these numbers that are from the FDA's site are only reflecting people who go to the hospital. So if you come to the office and tell me how horrible you felt on a drug, 99 times out of 100, I am not going to get on the phone and call and report it. This is what we know about. 100,000 deaths a year from properly taken, properly prescribed prescription drugs and drug interactions in this country. And how many deaths are we able to confirm from marijuana toxicity? None. None. So, unfortunately, the reason we find ourselves in this situation is because doctors feel like the only tool that they have to treat people is drugs, and patients also come to expect that when they've spent the time, effort, driving, left work to go to the doctor, they want something to help them feel better. And we have grown a culture where people want a pill to fix their problems. I don't want to work harder. I don't want to go through the effort to fix it in another, maybe more holistic way. But the result is that doctors are prescribers. Physicians aren't really healers. We're more of just prescribers. And the pharmaceutical companies don't create cures. They create customers. But evidence-based medicine is what all physicians in this country and research scientists think and believe is the best, safest way to treat patients, and I take issue with that. Functional and integrative medicine tries to identify root causes of problems, and as I mentioned, the endocannabinoid system's critical role in restoring health, homeostasis, and balance is one reason why cannabis medicine is so needed. Because if in fact safety is the primary concern of the watchdog agencies in this country, then cannabis medicine should never have been illegal. It should never have been made a Schedule I drug. And the truth of the matter is very evident now that after 70, 80 years of the modern pharmaceutical industry, we are not making our society healthier. Cannabis medicine is something safe. 0 recorded deaths ever from marijuana toxicity, and people who talk about cannabis contributing to accidents and to deaths can say that about everything else: phones, alcohol, other substances, being too tired, distracted, but it holds tremendous potential for helping people relieve suffering from a variety of conditions in a much safer, much more effective way than the pharmaceutical industry's products have proven that they're able to do. So just by the numbers, every 19 minutes somebody dies as a result of a properly prescribed, properly taken prescription drug. Nobody dies from marijuana toxicity. It is not without potential side effects and some small risks, but they do pale in comparison to the harms imposed by many of the pharmaceutical agents that we prescribe, and something that all medical students are taught in medical school in their bioethics courses is that the first tenet of every physician is to do no harm. And I think that we have gotten a far away from that, and it's time for us to reevaluate our falsely held beliefs as patients, physicians, and politicians. Thank you all very much.